The views expressed on this special broadcast of the Take 12 radio show do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting or its affiliates. KHLT is not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
A very scary experience.
You know, God is a solution. God, the 12 steps.
I like where he's going here.
Helps the community grow, helps us grow.
Monty has done a phenomenal job.
Lack of open-mindedness.
And you're talking about taking people through a spiritual process, getting them into recovery.
Thanks, Monty, and thanks for all your support.
We need spirituality to make this thing work long term.
It's an absolute pleasure. He certainly knows a lot of people.
This is one of the places that is about the business of the solution.
And now, broadcasting on location somewhere in the vast expanse of the Pacific Northwest, it's the over-opinionated 12-stepologist, the Monty Man.
That's right. That's right. That's right, my friend. I am overly opinionated because I'm right 99.9% of the time. Unfortunately, that 1% is bigger than the rest of it. Welcome to Take 12 Recovery Radio at take12radio.com on your internet dial. And I am your host, the Monty Man. Listen, you can listen to our shows in a number of ways. You can go to take12radio.com, use the number 12 or the word 12. It'll take you to the same website. You can click on the Listen Online button. It'll play automatically. You can click on the Watch Online button. That's our YouTube version of our show. You can click on Follow Us on Podomatic, and you can download the Podomatic app for iOS or Android, either one. If you go to Podomatic, click on the Follow button, and you can sign up, and that way you can sign up for free, and Podomatic will never spam you. They'll never bother you, I promise. And that way you can comment on the shows, and you can download the shows so it doesn't take up any of your data when you listen to it on your smart device. There's just a number of ways. You can go to Facebook. You can go to iTunes, Twitter, all of it. We're all over the place. And speaking of being all over the place, coming up on February 26th, it's a Friday from 6 to 9 p.m., at Clark College Geyser Hall Student Center in Vancouver, Washington. I'm inviting you to join me and comedian Bob Perkel for the Lifeline Connections alumni event, I Love Recovery. Now, Bob has appeared on Showtime, Last Comic Standing, Comedy Central, and this is a presentation of family-friendly recovery comedy. So bring the kiddos. It's a free event. Free food, pizza, and vendor booths, and raffles and door prizes. The recovery community in Vancouver, Washington is amazing. There's no right fighters. The recovery faith community, the secular 12-step community, they all come together, and they leave the differences at the door, and it's an amazing group of people. Again, Friday, February 26th, with Bob Raquel and myself at Clark College Geyser Hall Student Center. And you can visit lifelineconnections.com, I believe, for more information on that. Or you can just email me here at our email address, which is take12radio, that is the number, take12radio at comcast.net. All right, so for as many steps, 12 of them actually, in our 12-step fellowships, there are probably 500 books per step, if not more, written on the topic. They're all over the place. All you have to do is visit Hazelden, the largest publisher of self-help books for people whose problem was self-help. And there's just tons of literature on 12-step recovery, pro and con. And you're going to find it there. And you know that I read a lot. Being a journalist, I have to read a lot. I get a lot of books in the mail, and Quite frankly, I would say probably a large percentage of them I read and I don't do an interview with. Because so many of them do not point to the solution. They point to a man-centered philosophy many times that we can get sober, stay sober on our own intellect. And I'm here to tell you that doesn't work. It does work, I suppose, for the person who's not the real deal, for the person that's not the true alcoholic or addict, for people that are simply alcohol abusers or drug abusers who just need a good swift kick in the butt and go to some meetings and read some platitudes on the wall. That might work. But for somebody who really has the obsession of the mind and the allergy of the body when it comes to narcotics or alcohol, let me tell you, it doesn't work. Self-sufficiency doesn't work. It's not an option. And whenever I come across a book that is on the same page with me about that kind of thing, that's when I get excited. And such as the book, Taking the First Step, Daily Meditations for 12-Step Programs by Anthony Caetano. I am pleased to have Anthony on the show this week. Let me tell you, this is a book that is designed to help persons in 12-step programs to daily experience the new philosophy of life which recovery represents, and to recognize the benefits of discovering and expanding spiritual awareness. That's a key statement here, expanding spiritual awareness, by working, and in quotes, may I just say, the program. Not your program or my program, but the program at our own pace, in our own way, relying on the help and support of our higher power and others who also work the program. We can change and be transformed. And I want to talk to my guest and the author about this thing called Change and Transformed. Tony, or your author name, Anthony Caetano. Tony, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, Monty. Appreciate it. Appreciate the kind words.
Absolutely. Now, this book is just packed with stuff. I mean, at quick glance, somebody would say maybe there's a little too much. I don't particularly think so, because I think it's set up to where you can take a piecemeal because there's daily stuff in here. This is really a 12-step devotional. So if you look at it on a daily basis, it's just right. But you cover a lot of ground, true?
Yes, I guess I do. It took me 3 years to write it and 20 years to publish it. I finally got to set a deadline and stuck to it. But I read probably, the last count was 539 books about program, about self-help, the Bible, the Quran, every major religion, the Upanishads. So it's got a lot of truth in here, a lot of wisdom from many different areas.
Right. You got Smokers Anonymous in there. You got ACOA in there. You got all sorts of stuff.
That's correct.
What I love, though, is though our malady may look different and show itself in different forms, the solution is still the same. And that's a connection with our Creator, where there's a God-shaped hole where nothing else really fits in it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've referred to it a couple of times in here about the hole in the soul. You're absolutely right, Monty.
So before we talk more in depth about the book, let's talk about you, Tony. I say this to many of my guests. You sound pretty good today, but maybe yesterday wasn't so positive. What was going on in your life, man?
Today I'm 73 years old, in good health, and living in sunny Sedona, which is the place I always wanted to retire to. I'm a former special education director, worked at the federal, state, and local levels for 45 years. working with students with disabilities and their families. And along the way, I've been married for 41 years, but 3 different women. After the second divorce, and where I basically lost everything, I kind of had the idea that maybe my life was unmanageable and that I needed to work on it. And fortunately, I met my current wife, number 3, who we've been married for 24 years, and we're both in different programs, and I got introduced to the program. After about 3 or 4 years of marriage, I got the idea that, there was nothing really out there for the newcomer into the program that kind of explained what the traditions are like and what the steps are and how does that really fit into my daily life. So I started reading a lot of meditation books, Melody Beattie, Emmett Fox, Eric Butterworth, a whole bunch of them. And I just liked the format of a daily meditation. I like the fact that, you could flip to the day that you're on or open the book at a random page and, get some inspiration. So that's the way I set up my book, that it has a quote at the top. There's a subject area. The page is talking about what the particular topic is, like the secret of abounding happiness, for example. And then at the bottom, I have a biblical scripture quote that goes along with it. And then a little affirmation about today's step. And, what can I do, myself to improve? And that has helped me to maintain my peace of mind and serenity. So I finally know what that really means after all these years.
Okay, now I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a minute, if I may.
Sure.
Because I know there's some folks out there listening that are saying, well, you're saying there wasn't really anything out there for the newcomer. What about the big book? What about the instructions in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, for instance? So what would you say to them?
Well, I would say that, all the literature from all the different 12-step programs are valuable, and you should read as much of that as you can. The nice thing about my book and the interpretations that I have in there, it includes, it just so happens that there are 52 sections based upon the 52 weeks. And, I look at, you sort of like the A to Z menu from acceptance all the way through. I don't think I got to Z. I got to worry. I got to worry, W. And there are affirmations in there about each one of them. And if you're having an issue with any one of them, you just go to the back of the book and look at that, and then you can see 4 or 5 different references with articles and words of wisdom that will help you through it.
Now, in the preface, you state the road to recovery is a process. Mm-hmm. It takes time to regain, reclaim, and regroup. I love those 3 words. All that was lost while we tried on our own to cope with the many forms of addiction we may have encountered. And many of us tried on our own and failed terribly. Building trust, you say, takes time. Change takes time. Healing old wounds takes time. And there is no immediate ready-made solution. So you're saying the same thing 3 different ways, which is great, because that's kind of the spirit in which Bill Wilson wrote. He knew that we learned by repetition, but we wouldn't listen to the same thing over and over again. So he used different words constantly, saying the same thing. And you do that here. I love it. So I'm going to say it again. It takes time to regain, reclaim, and regroup all that was lost while we tried on our own to cope with the many forms of addiction we may have encountered. Building trust takes time. Change takes time. Healing wounds takes time. And there are no immediate ready-made solutions. But the tools and principles of the program, and that's in quotes again, can lead us to the answers that are right for us. Recovery comes through the healing of the spirit. Recovery comes a little at a time. Recovery is not a place to be reached or a goal to achieve, but an experience you can choose to be in for the rest of your life. I say that you have the program in quotations. You emphasize the program. Why is that?
Primarily so that the new people coming in recognize that that is a program. That it's not just one thing. It's not just the steps. It's not just the traditions. It's not just the concepts. It's everything together, and everything works to help you, as you said, to heal and to grow. And what I've learned in my 24 years of being in the program is that you never graduate. And every time you go to a meeting, you hear something new. Even though you may have heard the same thing 100 times over, it finally sinks in. And that's another thing I like, Monty, is, I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but there are over 100 slogans in the program.
Oh, yeah.
And basically I hit them all in the book. And they're simple because, that's what we remember. I mean, if you can remember to, let go and let God, when you're first coming in and you've been on your knees for so long and you hit your bottom, that simple phrase can keep you going, and one day at a time. It can keep you going, keep you coming back.
I really like what you said about the program being made up of many things, because if you just take one aspect of it and try to better your life and stay sober and recover, it's probably not going to work. I mean, if you go to meetings and you just read the steps on the wall, for instance, although that's very nice and very commendable, just doing that isn't enough. Or if you just read the slogans by themselves and, live and let live, one day at a time, then walk away, and then you wonder why you relapsed, there's probably a good reason for that. You've got to take this whole thing as a whole, true?
Right, absolutely. You have to get a sponsor. You have to work the steps. You have to do service work. And I don't know that the 12-step, people misunderstand that about a spiritual awakening, but the awakening is just to try and, carry the message to other people that are out there and suffering and struggling. And I love what you have on your website, that you've got it right there, experience, strength, and hope. And that's what we do. We share our experience and share our strength, the fact that we were strong enough to change. And when people look at us in the rooms, they can identify. It's a program of attraction, not promotion. And they have the hope that, they too can change, and they too can, be healed and have peace of mind and serenity.
Yeah, you bet. All right, Tony, we're going to take our first break. Friends, don't go away. Check this out. More with my guests, author Anthony Caetano. He is the author of the book, Taking the First Step, Daily Meditations for 12-Step Programs, because you can take this book and you can apply it and use it for whatever program that you're working. More with my guests when we come back. Don't go away.
When you hear that bell, you'll know it's time for Recovery 101. Recovery 101 with Bruce, Shelley, and Mark is a recovery broadcast based loosely on 12-step recovery programs. But it's less like a meeting and more like going to coffee afterwards. You know, the meeting after the meeting. Ooh. Your host used to suffer from insanity, but now they absolutely, unapologetically enjoy it.
That's right.
For incredible fun and informative recovery radio, tune in to Recovery 101 at recovery101.net on your internet dial.
All right, and welcome back, my friends, all of you in recovery, those of you who are advocates of, and perhaps some of you who should be. Welcome to Take 12 Recovery Radio on your internet dial. You can subscribe to us by going to take12radio.com. Click on the subscribe link at the very bottom, and you'll get an email blast 3 days a week. We update our shows Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Usually the night before, for those of you who are on the East Coast. So when you wake up bright and early, there it is for you. You can also subscribe on iTunes, or you can subscribe on the Podomatic link as well. That bumper music was from a song called More Than a Feeling by Journey. And I hope to everything precious and holy that you're not basing your recovery on your feelings, that it is more than a feeling. And I love this statement that you have in here, Tony. You say, as newcomers, we have a great deal to learn. We need to be willing to change. We also need to be committed to working the steps on a daily basis. Only then will we receive the priceless gift of serenity. I think sometimes happiness is overrated because happiness is based on our happenings going on around us, but we can have serenity regardless of our circumstances. True?
Absolutely. Whenever I talk about serenity, I always link it also to responsibility, and not the idea of being responsible for my own actions, even though that's a part of it.
Yeah.
But I have the ability to respond to whatever the situation is, and I can respond in a positive way, or I can respond in a negative way. And if I'm in a place of serenity, I'm going to respond in a positive way, and I'm not going to rack up a bunch of resentments that I'm going to have to make amends for later on.
You bet. You bet. The material in this book is designed to help us on our daily journey in recovery. There you say it again, daily. Boy, you really drive that home. That's so important.
Yes.
Each month is dedicated to one of the 12 steps. Each day in the month contains information and stories which relate to issues and our suggestions for working the step. And it really does. Do you have a favorite one in here?
A favorite step?
Yeah, a favorite step or a favorite day of the week.
Oh, actually, yeah, I do.
Okay.
Early on in the program, I used to go with my wife every Sunday night to a group in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts, and it was a gratitude meeting. It was an open AA meeting. And when I first got in there, I had just gone through a divorce, filed bankruptcy, lost my job, and all kinds of other bad things.
Right.
And I'm sitting there in the meeting thinking, what the hell do I have to be grateful for? I had no concept of what gratitude was. And fortunately, by going to that meeting every week religiously, I came to appreciate what that really was and how that relates to the steps and to program people. And at the end of that year, they actually gave me an honorary chip for being there every week.
Wow.
And
wow.
that was powerful, and that was the kind of relationships that I was able to develop. The best friends that I have are program people.
Right.
Because they tell it like it is, and they open their hearts to you, and they support you, and they love you in a very special way, as they say in the program dedications.
Yeah. Yeah. One I just love in here, and I'm going to read this if I may,
Sure.
is February 16th. This is under perseverance. And the thing that attracted me about this was the title, The Need for Turbulence. Because I think sometimes we think that recovery is all about getting comfortable. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes God's best work is done when we're not comfortable. It states, on the Boeing 707 jet aircraft, a line of small blades is placed halfway down the upper wing. These little blades, sticking up from the otherwise smooth wings, are called Vortex Generators. Boy, that's a scary term. They are put on the plane for the purpose of creating turbulence in the airflow passing over the wing. The plane designers had discovered that the Boeing 707 would not steer accurately when the air current was too smooth. For whatever reason, our recovery does not steer accurately when everything is too smooth either. We seem to need a little roughness and turbulence in our program to make progress. Many recovering persons experience their worst relapse or slip when everything was going smoothly. Boy, how true is that? Yeah. If we don't encounter rough seas of difficulties, we get cocky and complacent and can easily get off course and crash. Without struggle and strain, we become lazy and vulnerable, prey to foolish errors. We need to stay alert. Paul said, we rejoice in our sufferings, Romans 5:3, because our problems and rough times produce endurance and toughness that sees reality as a struggle, not as an easy highway. In here, you talk about complacency. In the NA basic text for Narcotics Anonymous, it talks about complacency is the enemy to those of us with substantial clean time. Yeah. And so I love this idea because so many people, and I know there's people listening that are in a position in their recovery process, and things aren't looking real pretty right now. They're doing the deal, they're doing everything they should, and they're wondering why the seas are stormy. And this is really encouraging. This is suggesting that those stormy seas are necessary, right?
Absolutely necessary. Yep.
Yeah. And then you refer to Psalms 90:17, and let the beauty of the Lord our God be upon us and establish the work of our hands for us. Today's step, there are many things I can do to improve my life and to further my recovery, but I cannot heal myself. I need to continually ask for God's help in becoming free of all that blocks me from my true self. Good stuff, man.
Oh, thank you.
Really good stuff.
One of the other things that I think about when I'm talking about turbulence and difficult times is what I remember Robert Schuler's quote that tough times don't last, but tough people do.
Ooh.
And that has gotten me through an awful lot of tough times.
Yeah, you bet. I like that. Another one, June 23rd, responsibility. Let go of old ideas. Boy, it's our old ideas that get us in trouble, right, Tony?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those bad habits that we developed and hanging around with the wrong people. One of the things I learned early on, there was, the slogan about, hang with the winners. Be with people that are actually doing the program, not around the program, but are in the program, and they're your models.
You have stuff in here for the codependent as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's often said that not every codependent is alcoholic or addict, but every addict and alcoholic is codependent. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And everybody in Al-Anon is codependent.
Yeah.
That's why they're there, or we're there.
Including the person you're renting the meeting hall from. Otherwise, they wouldn't rent it to you. Oh, man. Well, this is really good stuff. Now, the website, folks, is takingthefirststepbook.com. Can you get this on Amazon as well?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yes. And it's available in the Kindle version also.
Right.
And it's on, I think, BookBub is another one that it's on.
And I think I told you this the other day when we did a little pre-interview. Normally, books this size turn me off. because they scare me, because I know what's coming. I know that I'm going to be in for a long read. This is an exception to the rule. I'm kind of a touchy-feely guy, and I like the way this book feels in my hand. I just do. I mean, I don't know, something about it, man. I just do. And yes, it's thick, but that's because of the amount of stuff you cover here. But again, this is something that's a daily thing. I am telling you, listeners, this is just an absolutely wonderful piece of literature. This is anybody can gain and glean from it, help just to get through the day, whether your day's great or whether it just stinks. There is stuff in here that will help you, and you have a daily affirmation in here. You have daily stuff to read. It's really done well. Taking the First Step is the book, Daily Meditations for 12-Step Programs. Anthony Caetano is the author. All right, don't go away, my friends. More with my guests when we come back.
Serene Scene Magazine is published for individuals who are seeking knowledge, support, and hope. Addiction is a systemic problem, and the content of Serene Scene reflects the complexity of putting addiction into remission, with special attention given to the loved ones of the addict. And now, here's Andrew Martin, Editor-in-Chief for Serene Scene.
I'm Andrew Martin, creator of Serene Scene Magazine. The whole purpose of Serene Scene Magazine is to help people help themselves to a long-term quality lifestyle of recovery. Please have a look at some of the technological features that it has, the audio files, and the video files that are incorporated into the publication as well. I hope you have fun with it, and I hope there's something there for you.
Serene Scene, a magazine for long-term healthy lifestyles of recovery. Visit www.serenescenemagazine.com and subscribe today.
Men, women, and their families experience tremendous pain and suffering due to the struggles they face from substance abuse and its co-occurring mental health challenges. They need to find a safe place for peace and healing. Therapia Addiction Healing Center was born out of a deep desire to provide that safe and powerful healing environment. Therapia exists to help people recover from addictions by developing and maintaining healthy, meaningful relationships with God, self, and others. To speak with an addiction specialist, call 1-855-652-4325. That's 1-855-652-4325. Or visit our website at www.therapia.net. Therapia Addiction Healing Center, restoring lives one step at a time.
Hey, it's Artie Kornfeld, and you're listening to Take 12 Radio, Recovery Talk, and Positive Music.
Anthony Caetano, author, is my guest this week here at Take12Radio.com on your internet dial. His book, Taking the First Step, Daily Meditations for 12-Step Programs. I emphasize programs because he's really left no stone unturned in here. Tony, talk to us about the appendixes in the back of the book, the different varieties of things you have back there.
Oh, okay. As I said earlier, I mean, it has 52 sections, from acceptance all the way through worry, and each one of them also has, like if you're having a problem with failure, there's probably 7 or 8 pages that deal with that issue, or fear, gratitude, forgiveness, and you can just go to the back of the book, look up that particular topic, and then go into the book itself and read an excerpt about that. When you earlier you had asked me what was my favorite page. Mm-hmm. It's actually the first page for the first month, January 1st, being an auspicious time. And the title of it on that page is I Didn't Know I Didn't Know.
Yeah.
When I first started writing this book, that was the title I was working on, because it was so true, being a newcomer into recovery. And so often I would hear people say, I didn't have a clue how to live before I got into a program. I didn't know I was in prison until I broke out. I didn't know. And that, for me, was like the first 48 years of my life, when I was living in the Isle of Denial and living in a dysfunctional family and just perpetuating that on my own family. And I learned that first step, that admitting powerlessness, is so essential to breaking the cycle of codependency or addiction or whatever. It's painful and it's hard to do, but we all have to do it. And as Scripture says, as you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And that's the truth that you need to find out. What is your truth, and who are you really?
That's a really good question for a lot of people. Who am I?
Yep.
Who am I? We have a lot of thwarted ideas of what we are, or who we are, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And at the bottom of the page, today's step happens to be for January 1st. I pray my higher power gives me the courage and strength to recognize the truth about myself and to help me accept that I am powerless.
Yeah, we often talk about how vital it is to have a real understanding of what step one is all about. Because many times, I know with the men I've worked with over the years, we have to continually go back there because they're not getting it, Active alcoholism, active addiction, regardless of what kind it is, whether it's pornography or overspending or codependency, whatever it is about powerlessness. But recovery from those things is about power, God's power. And I never
Mm-hmm.
understood power until I understood powerlessness, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. One of the things you do, before we talk about the appendixes, one of the things that you do I really appreciate, and believe it or not, listeners, some of you are going to go, I'm surprised to hear you say that. My listeners know by now that I'm a born-again, Bible-thumping Christian. That's just who I am. And though you use biblical references in here, you are also very sensitive to other people's viewpoints. I mean, like in here you say, I pray my higher power give me the courage and strength. So, you're not so dogmatic about it that this thing isn't welcoming to other people, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I really love about the program and the whole idea of higher power, that we define that for ourselves. And it's not one particular God or entity or whatever. It's universal. We all can identify with our own humanity, our foibles, and the fact that we need something beyond us to help us.
Yeah. And it's not a human power. I mean, that's one thing we could eliminate right now, because, and we often say it on this show, if you're powerless and I'm powerless, 0 plus 0 is 0. So whether that's a room full of 25 or 2,400 people at a 12-step convention or a 12-step meeting, if we're powerless, we're powerless. So we need a power. I love what it says in the chapter Working with Others in the AA Big Book. It says, remind the prospect, that meaning the newcomer, and his recovery is not dependent on people, but on his relationship with God. And anywhere is acceptable to make a beginning, as long as you're willing to consider that maybe what you're doing is not working, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I like step 2 right after that, and I broke it down in the book like came to believe in a power greater than ourselves. Well, came to, I woke up,
right,
and then came to a meeting, and then finally came to believe. And I've seen a lot of people struggle with the whole idea of believing and turning your life and your will over in step 3. But if you don't, then you're not going to progress spiritually. And this is a spiritual program.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So in the back, you have the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. You have the 12 steps of Al-Anon. You have the 12 steps for adult children. You have the traditions back here. You have daily affirmations and selected prayers. And then I love these other pieces in here. Like you have the word acceptance. You go, I let go of old ideas about myself and discover a new self through recovery. You have the word codependency. God, help me believe in myself and help me let go of old beliefs and feelings that are hurting me. Forgiveness. I ask God to free me from feelings of bitterness, resentment, anger, envy, and the desire for revenge in order that I receive the gift of forgiveness. You've done just a bang-up job on this, buddy. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And you're talking about the appendix.
Yes.
Appendix C, the last one is a listing of 53 suggested readings, which most of the things that are in this book are from other people. Like I said before, Eric Butterworth, Melody Beattie, Emmett Fox, James Allen. There's so many excellent writers out there from different genres that have excellent messages to bring to people. And I liked it for the fact that these quotes that are at the top of the page are from all these different books and different authors and famous people and who had really good insights.
You even have the clinicians in mind here. You've got Terence Gorski listed. I love it.
Yes.
For anybody that's out there, I mean, for those of you who don't appreciate what I just said, if you work in the treatment field, Gorski is required reading. And whether you like him or love him, he's required reading. He and I communicate over Facebook on occasion. But you, like I said, you leave no stone uncovered. You got index of quotes in here. I mean, gosh, you've just done great stuff. You've got scripture references like acceptance. You got a whole bunch of an achievement, all like in alphabetical order. Change, codependency. You've got scripture references. Good job. I'm just I'm tickled to death. What kind of response have you gotten from others who have read or are using this book, Tony?
A very, very positive response. I've got 5 stars on Amazon. And I'm waiting for the first negative one to come through, and I'm just steeling myself so I don't crash. But just about everybody who's read it loves it, and they're doing it with it as the intent is. They're doing it on a daily basis. They're reading it on a daily basis, whether they're religiously doing it or just opening the book to a page and trying to get inspiration. But one other thing, Monty, I want to tell you is, it's not all heavy reading. I mean, there is humor in here as well.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a story about one of the meetings I went to, and this woman, this was at an AA meeting, and she gets up there, and this was the first time she was at the podium, and she was very nervous and stumbling over her words, and she hesitated and apologized for her lapses of memory, and finally she said, I've lost my train of thought. And then one of the guys in the front row said, that's okay, another train will be along soon.
That's right. Well, I want to boast about you a little bit so people don't think you just fell off the turnip truck and started writing. Anthony P. Caetano is a retired special education director, a certified grant writer and trainer, and president of 5-Star Consulting. He's been a grateful member of Al-Anon for over 25 years. He has served as a group rep for the Saturday Steps to Serenity Group in Sedona, Arizona for the past 3 years. Let me ask you this, as someone who lives in Sedona, have you ever seen any flying saucers, Anthony?
Have not, but went to, evidently there's a group here called MUFON, and they did a presentation at one of our programs here at Yavapai College. We have a program called Lunch and Learn, and they came in, and they had over 110 people there.
Wow.
And it was a fascinating presentation. There was one guy there who was in his late 80s, and he had a binder that was like 400 pages with pictures and newsprint articles and all kinds of stuff. And it was fascinating.
Wow.
But personally, I have not seen one.
Sedona is an absolutely beautiful area of the country, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's perfect. We get 325 days of sunshine a year. We've got the red rocks, the green trees and grass, and the blue skies. It's just the greatest place in the world.
Now I have a friend, Marco Ronzi, who he served on our board of directors here at Take 12 Radio. He lives in Scottsdale. Mm-hmm. And I was out there here not long ago for Hope Fest, which is in Prescott, Arizona.
Yeah.
And we covered the Hope Fest for the radio station. And Marco was telling me that there are a lot of I'll just say this, interesting philosophies about Sedona. There's a lot of New Age movements. There's a lot of spiritualism. There's just a lot of really interesting folks in Sedona. It's really a combination of a lot of interesting people, isn't it?
Absolutely. We people who live in Sedona, we refer to that as the woo-woos. But there's a very high level of consciousness and spirituality here. These red rocks I found out recently that they're made primarily of crystals inside. So I think that's maybe one explanation of why they're so powerful. And we have these vortexes, they call them, that either the energy goes up to the sky or it comes down from the sky, depending on where they are. We've got like 6 of them around here.
Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah. Folks, if you've never visited Sedona or that area of the country, you really owe yourself a favor to do so, regardless of what your faith is or isn't. It's just a magnificent area of the country. And Arizona has a beauty all its own. I'm not real fond of the heat, but when I was there for Hope Fest, I discovered that it can be nice and toasty during the day, but then at night it can get really cold.
That's true.
Oh, my gosh.
The beauty of Sedona, though, is it's kind of in between Phoenix, Scottsdale, and Flagstaff.
Yeah.
So if it's 110 in Phoenix, it's probably 98 or 99 in Sedona. And then at Flagstaff, it's probably 89. And Flagstaff is only, 45 minutes away. So, I mean, it's
right.
You could always drive up there, and it's 9,000 feet elevation, and it's nice and cool. It's like taking a mini vacation in New England.
Wow.
Sedona's right in the middle, so we get very temperate temperatures. There's always a nice breeze.
Sure.
Very comfortable.
Yeah. And the people that I met when I was in Arizona, they were just very gracious. It was very welcoming. So you live in a great part of the country, my friends. You really do. Taking the first step, daily meditations for 12-step programs. I love that the way you word that. You don't say for 12-step people, you say for 12-step programs. So that makes it really all-inclusive no matter what program you're in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nice job. Go to the website, my friends, takingthefirststepbook.com. You can also, for a time, you can go to the link on our main page at take12radio.com, right above the listen online button. There'll be a link to go to Tony's website to get this. Tony, thank you so much for taking time to be on the show with us and sharing with us your experience, strength, and hope.
Thank you, Monty. That's greatly appreciated. I'm glad you're enjoying the book.
Yeah, absolutely. Any closing thoughts from you, Tony, today?
Let's see now. What can I think? Well, when I dedicated the book, I dedicated it to my wife, to my mother, and to my children, and my stepchildren for helping me to realize that I need to work the program every day.
Every day. Every single day. You bet. And we're worth it, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You bet. God doesn't make junk. So, listener, I don't care what you're feeling. You think you're the lowest of the low. Let me tell you, you are absolutely precious to your Creator. You really, really are. And so it is well worth doing this every single day. And what a great help it is, this book, Taking the First Step, by Anthony Caetano. Anthony, don't hang up. We're going to close out the show, and I want to come back and talk to you for a bit. Folks, remember our website address if you're listening on a smart device, take12radio.com. Follow the links to go to Anthony's website and check it out. Send him an email. Get a copy of this book. And listen, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with somebody, would you please? All right. Remember, do something right now that'll make the person you will be tomorrow proud to have been the person you are today. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man along with my guest, Anthony Caetano. We're wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty.